Welcome to the video build guide for the non-meme version of the Path of Walking Simulator 3.0. I'm officially dubbing this build the Chaos Burst Autobomber Elementalist. You are currently seeing in the background some footage of T16 maps with about 5x investment worth of gear, just to see kind of what you could look forward to with a little bit of investment into the build. The build is very easy to get going. There's only a few pieces you will need to get. Everything else can be self-found. It is as easy as it gets to play, being that it is an auto bomber. The build does most of the work for you, and it's quite easy to level as well, as it synergizes very well with skills like Flame Wall and Armageddon Brand and an Ignite setup, which are very strong leveling skills. Briefly, how the build works: we use the Essence of Hysteria on a 6-socket staff to get access to the Fire Burst skill. Fire Burst will trigger on hit with a 1-second cooldown. We put supports into the staff to scale the ignite damage of that Fire Burst. We then use Stormbrand and Herald of Thunder to automatically apply that Fire Burst as we go through maps. By using the Black Flame Ring, we cause enemies to take chaos damage instead of fire damage. And then by using either Barracks Respite Ring or Aberrath's Hooves Boots, we then proliferate and chain those ignites across enemies for very, very smooth mapping. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the specific gear that you will need for this. As mentioned, you're going to want a staff with the level 20 Fire Burst on hit that you do get from the Essence of Hysteria. It is not required to roll a crazy staff like you may have seen me using on the Path of Walking Simulator video. This is one that I was just having some fun crafting on, trying to see just how crazy I could get with it. This is the staff that carried me all the way to Awakener level 8, including killing the Awakener. So as you can see on the staff, I only hit one usable mod, which was the fire damage over time multiplier, and then just crafted the fire damage on there, and that was all that was really needed. We then move on to, again, the Barracks Respite Ring, which is when you kill an ignited enemy, inflict an equivalent ignite on each nearby enemy. This one also has the added benefit of spreading shocks as well. You also have Aberrath's Hooves, which do the same thing, but again, only for the ignites. In my opinion, I like Barracks Respite better than Aberrath's Hooves, because I would rather have a rare boot slot open, because I feel like you have more flexibility there. I think you're losing more by taking up your boot slot than I believe you are by taking up your ring slot. And the only reason I would use Aberrath's over Barracks Respite is because Aberrath's is usually less expensive. But it appears that we do have some prices that have changed since I made my last video, and I will go over those in just a second here. The other required item is the Black Flame Amethyst Ring. This causes enemies that you ignite, they take chaos damage instead of fire damage from your ignites. Now what this doesn't do is this doesn't change the damage you deal. You still deal fire damage. The enemies take chaos damage instead. So all the changes are on the enemy's side. So for the build, you still want to scale fire damage, elemental damage, not chaos damage. When you debuff the enemy, you want to debuff them for chaos damage. So you want to use things like Despair and Vol Blight and Wither. So going on to the prices for kind of getting this started, when I had first made this build, I believe Essences of Hysteria were about 25 chaos. Aberraths were only about, I think, 18 to 20 chaos, and the Black Flame was only like 7 or 8 chaos at the time. So that was really, really cheap to get all three of those. That basically made you powerful enough to go storming through high red tier maps. If we kind of check and see where everything is now, Aberrath's has climbed up to over 100 chaos orbs. I had made my build right here, and you see they were very stable around 20 chaos. I made the build and they spiked. Even at this price point, and Black Flame did the same thing. Right around the same time I made the video, it also jumped up in price. Barracks Respite went up a little bit earlier. I really like Barracks Respite at this price more than paying for the Aberrath's Hooves. But I guess the point that I'm getting at, even with the Essence of Hysteria, has been on a steady climb as well, is that even at these current prices of about 50 Chaos for the Essence of Hysteria, about 70 Chaos for Barracks Respite, and about 50 Chaos for the Black Flame, that is still a lot of power you're getting for that investment. It's just unfortunately a lot more expensive than it would have been just, a few days ago. Going back to our build here, when it comes to what skill gems you want to have socketed in for the staff, we're going to do Deadly Ailments, Swift Affliction, Ignite Proliferation, Burning Damage, Unbound Ailments, and then the sixth socket is kind of up to you. I like Combustion Support. We don't need the chance to ignite. We already get 100% from Elementalist. We don't need the minus fire resistance because the enemies aren't taking fire damage. We're just using it for the 29% more fire damage mod. Other options are Energy Leech Support, which is less than Combustion, but will do more damage if you are not on full energy shield. Inspiration is also another good choice, but you just have to have some way to generate inspiration charges and keep them up. Withering Step is not enough on its own. And Hypothermia is also another good choice, but you will have to have some way to consistently chill enemies. And if you do have that or work that into the build, that is the one you want to go for. So that is how we scale the Fire Burst. For everything else, gear-wise, everything here is just rares with life and resistances. There's really not much to it. I do have Burning Brutality allocated. It's not an expensive node, and it is very good for the build. Again, the boots, just life, movement speed, resistances. On the helm, I do have the enchant for increased Despair Curse effect. That is my favorite for this build. It's a pretty good enchant. If you do get a helm with plus the minion gems, you can then throw your golems in there for some extra boost damage. On the armor, this is my end game armor. I really just wanted to get an additional curse and the frenzy charge on hit. That's really all I'm using this for. The frenzy charge generation is very nice, and the additional curse lets us run something like Enfeeble, which really helps for the survivability of the build, but none of this is necessary. You can just run a high life resistance chest and you're good to go. Nothing else that you really need there. The other 4-link setups I have, we have a Chaos Golem, Flame Golem, Stone Golem, all linked with Meat Shield support. This is just getting us some very nice bonuses from the Golems, as well as some damage, because we are taking the Golem nodes in the Elementalist tree. We are also using Withering Step, linked with Second Wind support, and another movement skill of your choice. I like Flame Dash, and then we also are using Val Blight for burst damage against bosses and other single targets. And then the way that we apply both our curse, Despair, which is Hex Touch with Despair, is Herald of Thunder and Stormbrand. So we use Stormbrand to trigger the initial chain reactions of Ignites and Shocks, and then Herald of Thunder takes over from there. But if you're in a single target situation where it's just a single boss and no adds, then you just make sure you always have a Stormbrand attached to them, and that itself will continue to trigger the Fire Burst and do the damage. For the other sockets, we are running Malevolence, and everything else is kind of up to you. I am running a Portal Gem just because I don't like Portal Scrolls, and that makes it easy for me. And then I'm running a Cast When Damage Taken setup with Steel Skin. I'm still trying to find the right balance between what levels I want these gems, but somewhere around the mid levels is going to be just fine. When it comes to jewels, any flat damage dispels is good. Since all of our damage can ignite, we don't need to specify that it's only fire damage. Literally any flat damage that you can add to spells will increase your ignite damage. For flasks, I recommend a Panicked Life Flask, a Quicksilver of your choice, and a Quartz of your choice. At Ziri's Promise is also a very strong flask, and it's very cheap. So I do recommend picking up one of those if you can. And then a nice endgame upgrade is a Cinder Swallow. It's a very powerful flask, so if you can't afford it, I would recommend getting that as well. If you can get a 5 or 6 link on your Herald of Thunder Stormbrand setup, like I said, I do like running Enfeeble. If you have an extra curse available, you can just slot that right into there. And then also you can run something like Unbound Ailment Support. This will increase the level of the shocks that you do with Stormbrand, helping out your single target a little bit. So I think that pretty much goes over all of the gear and the gem slots. We will go over to the tree. As I said before, we are an Elementalist. My recommendation for order is to grab Shaper of Flames first if you're going to be going with Ignite damage with like Armageddon Brand when you level. This makes you not have to worry at all about Ignite chance and helps boost your Ignites. I then like to go for Liege of the Primordial and then Elemancer, because the golem buffs are very good, they're very strong, and they're just very good general buffs. They'll basically bring everything up for you. And then with the Uber Lab, you can grab Shaper of Storms, which adds shock, which helps out with single target and some tougher enemies. So that I held off for last because it is very nice to have, but when you're proceeding through the maps, it's not really needed. You'll have enough power to take care of it. On the tree itself, again, we do grab some fire damage areas, we grab some life nodes, and we do go acro and phase acro to get dodge. That is kind of how we stay alive, by just moving, manually dodging, and then using these skills to dodge the times we aren't able to manually dodge. So we do have, I do have one cluster jewel setup as well. The only real important notables you need to get are blowback if you're going to go with cluster jewels. That is the strongest notable that we have. Everything else, you're just looking for fire damage or fire damage over time multiplier, or elemental damage is also good. Sadist is a good node, especially if you have added cold damage and even a little bit of crit. If you crit with cold damage, you will freeze, and that will trigger that extra 15% increased elemental damage on Sadist. I also have a Path of Building file drawn up. Let me pull that up here, if I can learn how to use my computer. So I have a Path of Building file drawn up here with a example level 85 tree with no cluster jewels, but ready to slot one in if you want to slot one in. I do have a notes section as well with some extra information for you, and there are example leveling trees as well. So I have an example 25 point tree, a 50 point tree, a 78 point tree, and then the final 85 point tree. I do not have the full list of items up here, but I do have some recommended flasks, some very simple jewels, again, the Black Flame and the Barracks Respite, the Amulet with Burning Brutality, and then a just very, very dead simple Fire Burst on hit staff. So this, again, will be linked in the video description if you want to go get that, and that'll give you everything you really need to kind of get going with the build. So I think that almost covers everything. Pantheons, I like Soul of Lunaris. If you do find that you are getting stunned frequently, then I would recommend Brine King instead. For the minor gods, I definitely like Garukan for the movement speed and the extra evade if you take in a savage hit. So when you do get hit, this helps you not get hit again. Well, for the bandits, we kill all, and I really think that might be everything we need to go over here. If I missed anything, just ask a question in the comments. I'll be around to answer whatever questions you got. I hope you guys can really give this build a try. I really enjoy it. I'm really worried about this being nerfed next patch. This might be your only chance to play this build in this form. And before I go, I am going to do a quick example of a T16 map just right here and just kind of talk over it and explain what I'm doing and just some, basic things like that. I am using my budget staff. I'm not going to use the Cinder Swallow, and I am only using the 4-link setup in my chest, just to kind of give you a better idea of kind of what more of a budget kind of looks like on this one.
Saints and heathens look the same once the rot takes hold.
So when you first enter the map, you just have to drop a storm brand. That will start the Herald of Thunder going, which as you just go through the map will just automatically start killing things. There's nothing you really have to press other than just go through the map. Your Withering Step, as you go by any tougher enemies, will apply that Wither debuff and just kind of help kill things a little bit faster. That's really all there is to it. Again, any questions, I'll be around in the comments to help out. I'm not planning on doing a full leveling guide for this build. There are several other content creators out there that are doing very similar builds to this, that already have some very good leveling builds, leveling guides out there. So I would just, no need to redo their work. They've got plenty of good stuff there. But I hope you guys all enjoy, and I hope everybody gets a chance to play this, and I really hope that they do not nerf this next league. So until next time, thank you for watching, and I will see you around.